Word. Yes, indeed. We have another one for you. Excited. We have the man himself, Mr. Michael Gehlken from the Dallas Morning News. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing well, Marcus. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. I can't wait to talk ball with you. Because I got to say, you are definitely one of the, we was talking before the show, I was saying you one of the last of the Mohicans. One of the people that do the job. I'm serious. I think people got to know what they looking at. Like, what will be your thoughts on that?
In terms of me being the last of the Mohicans?
Yeah. One of the last that really doesn't focus on a clickbait world. You keep it about the story, and you really find it. We gonna talk about it, but you really get down to the answers.
You want answers?
I try to create the journalism that I would want to consume, and there's a soapbox to this that I'll need more than 2 minutes and 17 seconds.
Keep going. Just talk. Go for it. I want to hear the whole soapbox. I even turn off the time. Go for it.
I think I have a theory that, because I think we're living, and we have been living in this hot take culture of sports opinion.
Yeah.
And, those who thrive off that and make a living off that, I mean, they have a bigger paycheck than I do. So maybe there's something to it. But I don't know. I can just remember when Tim Tebow was a rage and ESPN devoted all its programming to it, and I just got lost as a viewer. And I feel like we haven't really turned back from that. And it's, I just don't have the energy or the makeup, I guess, to be someone who's constantly, having opinions and bringing attention to himself. And I have a philosophy that if you have a strong opinion about absolutely everything, that means you aren't taking enough time to see the gray in the matter. If everything's so black and white to you that you're just spitting hot take after hot take, subject after subject, hour after hour, you aren't appreciating the minutia. You're criticizing a decision off the cuff. You're not seeing all sides as to what may have led to that decision. And so, I don't know, without, again, going too far deep into it, but I think it's not about, there's so many opinions out there. I'd rather not worry about that. I don't want myself to be part of any story. I'm just focusing on telling stories, being curious, learning, asking questions. And if I'm learning, then I can help fans learn about the team, about the players, about the other people within the organization, and hopefully make them feel closer before game day comes around Sunday.
Nah, you do a good. I'm gonna steal what my brother-in-law always says. You don't do a good job. You do a great job. Like, for people who really know what they listening to, because it was you that came out and asked Kellen Moore about taking what the defense give them. It was you that was asking the right questions about Amari Cooper, and it was just professional, but leading down the right path. And it was, I'm amazed when I watch you work. I really am. So let's get to the show, and we're going to talk some good ball today. I'm excited to talk some good football with you, Michael.
Likewise.
I just wanna run it up. Kinda check or something. I've been really in the field, let up, yeah. I've been really in the field, let her rush, I let her feel. Lately, I just wanna run it up. Don't need no deals, I make the deal. Half a ticket to a meal. Lately, I just wanna run it up. Yeah. Kinda check or something. Lately, I just wanna run it up. Count that too, count it up, count it up. Lately, I just wanna run it up. Need them ones, I need them fives, need them tens, I need that change to the safe, got blues inside. Greens and pinks, it's all the same. I still save and roll my change. Take some losses when I play, charge it to the game. I'm with L, yeah, I'm with T Black, I'm with Revan now. I'm with Bay, yeah, I'm with Jay, yeah, I'm with Chuck and now. Still the same, not switching sides, now it's about loyalty. You switch sides off for the bag, and that's worth more to me. I mix Nike with designer, I experiment. You just rock what's on the shelf, and I'm not feeling it. Search for the one, but baby girl, it's nothing real as this. Can't trust a soul, I keep a hammer, call it
Too legit.
I've been really in the field, love the rush, I love the feel. Lately, I just wanna run it up.
Oh. All right, here we go. We have Mr. Michael Gehlken himself. All right, so we go start from the top turnbuckles. We go come right off the gate. See, because this is what this gonna take me about 3 minutes to set this up too. I'm gonna be long with it, but you deserve this. So let's start here. Here we go.
I think we all know what this season is for Amari Cooper. We should know what this season is for Amari Cooper. He's got guaranteed money left. The all remaining guaranteed money is in 2021. 2022 is all dried up, and so the Cowboys theoretically could move on from Amari Cooper. They would only take a $6 million hit in terms of dead money against their 2022 salary cap, and that could clear some money to pay Michael Gallup. It's hard to imagine the Cowboys, having their big three at wide receiver for, the 2022 season, given what they pay Dak, what they paid Zeke, what they pay their offensive line to go ahead and give Michael Gallup his worth while you're paying Amari Cooper $20 million a year and you have CeeDee Lamb as a first-round draft pick. It's just hard to compute all that working with this. The team also needing a defense. So long answer to your Amari Cooper question, but I think that the big picture of him is really interesting, really fascinating. You probably can't talk about it enough because all things related to Amari have a real trickle-down effect on how it could ultimately impact Michael Gallup and his future in Dallas.
Shout out to A to Z Sports for that clip. And the reason why I played that clip is because I want to show people, because what happened after that is your warning was correct. You basically was warning that you didn't see how 3 was going to be obtained. So you warning on a new article that came out. Can you kind of talk about your article a little bit?
Yeah, 3 is a crowd again.
Yeah, right.
Short.
Yeah. So
look, if the Cowboys were not living in a salary cap world, the decision making and how they're navigating the situation involving Dak Prescott, involving CeeDee Lamb, and involving Micah Parsons would be a lot easier. Right now, you'd see at least one of those 3 would have signed a new, contract that puts them top of market at their position or close to. And of course, hasn't happened yet because this is a salary cap world, and it's a bit of a misnomer, although some underlying truth. It's okay. I'll keep going.
That was a wrong clip.
It's a bit of a misnomer, this idea that the salary cap is completely, subject to manipulation. You can do whatever you want from a team construction standpoint and not have to pay the price. That is just not true. If that was true, then Tyreek Hill would still be a Kansas City Chief. If that was true, Devontae Adams wouldn't have been traded, about a week after, I believe, Aaron Rodgers signed his new contract. There are difficult decisions that teams across the league make. And right now, the Cowboys are at the precipice of everything kind of coming to a head, where in that article that you showed of, all in the financial, or I think you maybe showed the, we're talking about a different one.
I got 2 of them.
Yeah, you got that one. That. So those 2 are kind of connected.
Yeah.
But in the all in the financial storm, I really took the time, like 2,000 words, to explain why the Cowboys had done so little in free agency, and I think it really outlines too why they're in a holding pattern with these 3 guys, and also why you've seen, no doubt, that Dak Prescott very easily could be paid $60 million a year based on his market worth.
Right.
If that's what Dak Prescott wants, then that's what he should get. But will the Cowboys give him that, if they do, I won't say one way or the other, but if they were to, I think there is a recognition within the building because of all the past contract restructures and other aspects of their finances that are outlined in that story.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to give Dak Prescott $60 million a year, which he's worth, the market says, then you are looking at a very finite period of being able to have CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons both on the Cowboys books.
Yes.
Not saying that the Cowboys are going to get rid of them both. Absolutely, I would say, but one of those, I think you're not talking about, let's say 4 years from now, Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, and Dak Prescott all being Cowboys if Dak Prescott signs a $60 million deal that he deserves. I don't think that's possible. So it's either Dak Prescott is going to take less than market value, and the Cowboys will, retain their trio. And I'm not trying to, Dak can do whatever he is, but I think he's aware of the situation in terms of the effect that his contract has on others. And so I'm not on one side of this. I'm not positioning that Dak should do anything one way or the other. But it's just a fact that having the highest paid defender in NFL history, which Micah Parsons should become, and having the highest or second highest paid wide receiver in NFL history, which CeeDee Lamb should become, and having the highest paid player in NFL history, which if Dak Prescott signs a $60 million contract, hypothetically tonight as we talk, he would become. Having all three under the same books, pretty sure is unprecedented, and it wouldn't last long.
What did you say tonight? Hold on, what did you say tonight? Did I miss something?
I'm just saying that if Dak Prescott signs the contract that he's worth, the $60 million a year,
okay,
it will be prohibitive to have both CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons simultaneously earning their worth, and these guys playing together, to the end of those deals. It's just not the way that the salary cap is designed to work. It's not the way it works for other teams, as roster moves elsewhere in the league have demonstrated, and it's not the way we work here in Dallas.
Right. So this is the thing I gotta say real quick. First of all, this article, great job on it. This is a paywall. I suggest that people subscribe, pay for it. It's not even that much, right? It's like $2 a month. This is like a deal, right? Because like he said here, paying 3 players elite money on the same team simultaneously is extremely challenging under the NFL salary cap. The Cowboys will become the league's only club to compensate 3 players at least $30 million per year. So that's kind of speaking to the crowd that believes, they can free up the money. And what I really love is that you actually did more work and showed your work with the can kicks back. Can you talk about the can kicks back real quick?
Yeah. So let's say 2022, and I'm just picking kind of a random year in the back, but I'm pretty sure the Cowboys, they did this with Dak in that year because they've kind of done it every year with him. But if they were to take his base salary and convert the vast majority of it to signing bonus, that signing bonus will spread out up to 5 years across the cap. So it's be in 2022, 2023, 24, 25, 26. And so by being able to convert the salary into bonus, you're taking the money you're pushing that money in the future. You're kicking the can down the road. You're essentially, creating cap space today in 2022, as we speak in 2024, but bear with me.
Right.
You're creating space in 2022, and in exchange, let's say $3 million less off of 2023, and then $3 million less off 24 and 25, and so forth. So when you just kick the can down the road to create immediate cap space, you are hamstringing yourself in the future because that's effective cap space is going down, and that's what has happened when they've done that with Zach Martin, and that's a big issue. He's going to cost a tremendous amount of dead money over the next 2 years in terms of 2025 and 2026, particularly if he was to step away from the game next offseason, which is a possibility, as I've written. And with respect to Zach, he could choose to play another year, and that's completely his decision to make. And he hasn't made a decision. Nothing's finalized today, but it's nonetheless, from a financial planning standpoint, something that the Cowboys have to be and are aware about, that he could step away from the game. And what are the cap ramifications? They did a restructure on his deal this offseason to mitigate it somewhat. So instead of a huge number coming in 2025 in dead money, it'll spread out across 2026 as well, with a post-June 1st release, which is a little crazy. I think the Cowboys could release a retiring Zach Martin, but that's what they would do. So from a cap standpoint, so getting really into the weeds here, but that just kind of shows like the breadth of these decisions, and what goes into it, and all the planning and all that. And so, so to circle back, so you kick the can with enough players down the road to be competitive, to acquire a Stephon Gilmore, to acquire a Brandon Cooks, to do those sorts of moves, and then you don't do anything with the opportunity in terms of when you get to January, and suddenly those moves, you have to pay for them as if they had worked out. You have to kind of pay the price of having push your chips in a bit. So that's where the Cowboys are, and it all lines up for 2025 to be a really, really key year there. They feel it now, but it's they're looking ahead at 2025, and that's what's scared them into a bit of a stalemate in terms of the moves they haven't been making. You haven't seen the large scale moves. Eric Kendricks was the biggest free agency acquisition they had, and it was a 1-year deal that was pretty nominal in cost. So that's where the Cowboys are, and that's again what underscores the tenuousness and sensitivity of how they're going to proceed with these big 3 contracts that hover over their head. And it could, you haven't asked me about this, but I'll just say it. The person that we aren't writing about enough is how this all is going to affect Osa Odighizuwa. He's a defensive tackle who's an ascending talent, who's coming into his 4th year. Cowboys are really excited about him. He's on the Mount Rushmore in the locker room of just guys who put in the work. I think Terrence Steele is another one of those guys who obviously got rewarded last year. But Osa Odighizuwa is just a freak in terms of how much he puts into the game and his body, and is probably, as he would tell you himself, guilty at times of overtraining and is learning from that lesson. But that's the type of guy he is. You kind of have to pull him back because he works so hard. Well, what does his future look like in Dallas if the Cowboys are have to worry about a franchise tag for CeeDee Lamb if they can't re-sign him? And I think the Cowboys probably will take care of him, but if they don't, going into the season, then they have to make sure that they keep him part of their roster. And you got Micah Parsons potentially under the 5th-year option. I think he would hold out next offseason, just the way CeeDee Lamb has. But still, you've got these moves that you have to account for to keep those guys around. So all those are huge chunks of your salary cap that are claimed. And what does that mean for Osa Odighizuwa? I don't know. There might be a bald-headed, goateed man in Washington who might be able to scoop him up.
Oh! Oh, you sure not hurt my feelings. Because I got to go back to something you said in this article too, and then I'm going to ask you another question about this. Hey, and listen, y'all, this is worth it, because let me just show y'all real quick. He goes through the weeds. I know he said I don't want to get into the weeds, but for people that really want to know the weeds, he gets all the, like he said, it's 2,000 words. So it's kind of one of those things that if
you want answers,
then go ahead and subscribe to Dallas Morning News. Pay the $2 and read about this, because I think he's giving a fair assessment, because he's looking at the dead cap hits into the future. He laid out Tank, he laid out Zach Martin, all the consequences of Dak, what caused it. It's all up in here. It's all in here. Now, that's if
you want answers.
That's what I would say. But let me go back to this real quick. The conclusion of what you said of the first article or the second article. You said, for this reason, the popular interpretation that Lawrence's blockbuster contract Thursday is good for Prescott and bad for the Cowboys mistakenly assumes Prescott plans to milk the team for all he possibly can. If that is the case, then the Cowboys have already lost. All but bound to move on from Prescott, Lamb, or Parsons. So basically 2 out of the 3 is going to survive if Dak Prescott is some kind of way not team friendly, is what you're saying.
I think the Cowboys would do everything they can to hold onto that trio for as long as they can. But in terms of sustainably keeping all three of them, yes, there would be a shot clock there.
Ooh. So that would be something like a tag for Micah to try to keep that as long as it could.
We'll see. I mean, it's there's so many different variables of the way you want to go. I mean, Micah is a rare NFL player.
Athlete,
I went back and looked, and I believe he is the only player in NFL history since I think 1971 when the award started, something along those lines. You're catching me on my summer break, but it might be a little fuzzy and sloppy with my particulars. But he's the only player in history to finish top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year in each of the first 3 seasons of his NFL career. Lawrence Taylor didn't do that. Jalen, J.U. Watt, none of these, Reggie Wright, none of these guys did that. And so he is special, and you don't find another Micah Parsons. You can't compare a draft prospect to a Micah Parsons and say this is the next 11. You don't do that because it took more than 50 years for this guy to come along in terms of that particular category of distinction, of accolade. So it's he's rare. And CeeDee Lamb's, again, this is underscores the Cowboys' problem. What are they going to do? I don't know. It's a good problem to have. They would tell you that. It's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But they also need to figure things out. And so what, Dak's contract is the biggest domino to fall. Now, everything that Dak's agent, Todd France, has done has really been in his client's best interest to get as much money as he possibly can over the course of his NFL career. You look at it being a 4-year, $160 million contract that was signed in 2021, as opposed to, a 5-year or 6-year deal, the sort of length that the Cowboys would much prefer and would really make their life easier in terms of, book planning. When you have a longer term contract to plan around, you just have it on paper in front of you. You can manipulate it. You can do whatever you want as you go, but you need the numbers there to tinker with, which is part of the Kansas City Chiefs' success. It's not just having Patrick Mahomes, but having Patrick Mahomes under a 10-year contract. And so, that isn't the way that Todd France has operated. He's taken care of his client and done an incredible job. But there is kind of a time, and I think that time is, if not already here, it's coming up where Dak has to kind of decide, all right, well, is it important to me to, take advantage of the footing that my agent has given me, which is a tremendous amount of leverage as a franchise quarterback who's got a green light all the way to free agency, if he so chooses to take it, no franchise tag, no trade clause, all that. Or does he want to be, not just the highest paid quarterback, but he wants to be a Dallas Cowboy. If that means taking less to build a team around him, then that's what he wants, and that's what he would want to do. So those are the sort of decisions that it's not just the Cowboys who are making these decisions about what the future of their team is going to look like. It's the players themselves. And CeeDee Lamb should not take $1 less than what he's earned. It's his first non-rookie contract. Micah should not take $1 less than what he deserves. It's his first non-rookie contract. But for a quarterback going into his third deal, his second non-rookie deal, there's precedent around the NFL with the quarterback taking less to build a team around him, and that is a great quandary that Dak has to answer. What does he want? What kind of career does he want? Does he want it to be here? Does he want it to be somewhere else?
Ooh.
And if it is here in Dallas, who's going to be around him? What kind of help is he going to have? And for how long?
Well, because in my opinion, Lau, did you have some?
I just jumped in, and I'm just trying to soak in all of this great information that you guys are putting out here as far as the contracts. Hey, keep going. We just digested everything.
I had a question real quick.
Go ahead.
It'll give you time to catch up. Because to me, Michael, they have to pay that. Too much dead money, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the season, and what you would get in return. And plus, you already spoke about in your article, the no trade clause. He has all the leverage. The good thing that you said in your articles, he did show a sign or a signal that he will be willing to play some ball. Like he said in the first contract, it was more personal, right? In this contract, I have say. So basically, y'all come to me with the final offer. I might take something off if it's gonna help the team. Can you see something like that happening?
I could see it. Yeah, I think Dak has made some kind of a little bit vague, but I think some references to the fact that this negotiation is different and he's at a different stage of his career, and so that might lead to a different approach in these sort of negotiations. He doesn't, tie his ego to being the highest paid this or that. He understands the bigger picture of the business. And he's comfortable financially. He's okay. He makes a lot of money off the field in a state without any state income taxes, and he's cleaning up. It's all deserving. But yeah, I think it's again something that's his decision to make, and if he wants to make maximum value of again what the market says he should collect, then go for it. I think anyone should understand that. I understand that. I think the Cowboys would understand that, and any fan should understand that. Like, he wants to make as much money as he can. Look what Kirk Cousins has done, and he's doing fantastic. Darrelle Revis has done that. If you want to just go revisit the market and make as much money as you can, then absolutely go for it. It's a job, and first and foremost. But if it's important to him to really want to be a Dallas Cowboy and want to win a Super Bowl here and everything that would involve, then this is kind of a signature moment of his career to do something that would help him and the team to that effect. But again, let's not lose sight of just, he's deserving of a lot of money, and he should never feel pressure that he has got to take any less, because you see what Trevor Lawrence is making, you see some of the other quarterbacks are already being paid and are about to be paid around the league. It would be I want to be very clear that he deserves what the market says he's worth. But
well, certainly, I like the way you framed that, because if he's going to make some concessions to his contract, I think that they may do it via the years of the contract, like you lamented earlier about the Pat Mahomes contract, of the length of the year of the contract. Because right now, when Dak Prescott first signed the contract, of course, he said it was personal, right, Boss Cowboy? So that's probably why he went with the 4-year deal opposed to the 5 or 6 year. So maybe they do like a longer year of a contract and have the voidable years there and spread out the money, whereas it may appear that he's X, Y, and Z taking less, but it's over guaranteed and it's the length of the years. What about that approach, Michael Gehlken?
Yeah, I think the year length is going to be obviously an important part of the contention if the Cowboys get far down that road, this year, or we'll see how much conversation really is happening. But yeah, that's always the most important variable of it. It's not just the the APY of what a player is being paid on a per year basis. It's how soon can he return to the market and take advantage of where the salary cap is gone. Yeah. I think one of what you kind of hit on a lot there is, I think it's, to me, the most fascinating, interesting, captivating part of these sort of deals is the part that doesn't get talked about a lot, which is just the human side of this. And I remember earlier in my career, I saw Eric Weddle with the Chargers in San Diego, and he fell to the second round. The Chargers, the late general manager, A.J. Smith, traded up and got him and had a stellar career. Ended up winning a Super Bowl with the Rams when he came out of retirement, which put a cherry on it. But he was fantastic. And throughout his entire tenure in Dallas, he had this chip on his shoulder of being overlooked and falling in the draft and not getting enough respect. And he read everything. And like, some guys are just wired to have this mentality that they've been wronged and they've got to prove it. Even if they've been an all-pro and Pro Bowl, like they find something that makes them hungry to find more. And Weddle always did that. And then he held out, and the Chargers weren't comfortable paying top dollar to a safety. It just wasn't a premium enough of a position philosophically to do so. He was getting later in his career, and so they ended up not going in that path with him. And just the communication part of that, and who Eric Weddle was as a player, that sword that he had and kind of carried with him throughout his NFL career, that the Chargers benefited from, because it was pointed at the rest of the league, suddenly became a double-edged blade. And now it was his own team that was disrespecting him, and that situation turned really sour really quickly, leading to his, placement on injured reserve when he thought he was healthy at the end of the season. And then he was fined for at halftime watching his daughter dance and without permission. Like, it just really got toxic at the end. And we went to Baltimore and did great things there. And then again, like I said, Super Bowl with the Rams. So the point being that negotiation and situation could have went so differently if it didn't have a human aspect to it. And so that's the variable that, again, it matters, and it matters in ways that are very subjective to each and every case of the player and how he's wired, what stage of his career he's in, how is the team communicating, and what tone. There's such strategic communication in all of this, and so we make a mistake if we're just talking about numbers and what a guy's worth and what he should sign for and the like. But there really is a people component, people management, communication strategy that has to happen too, and it's relevant in ways that are really, really pronounced behind the scenes, but publicly aren't really talked about. And I think we all kind of miss the boat on that.
Most certainly, yeah. I mean, these are human beings, and the competitive juice will always be there. I guarantee that CeeDee Lamb is looking at what A.J. Brown is getting. He's looking at what Justin Jefferson is getting. I guess he was waiting for the leaf to fall on Jamar Chase, but that leaf is not going to fall this season. So now he's stuck in that spot. Like you said, he's due fair market value or his value, and that could be anywhere between $35 and $34 million. So he's looking at it like, hey, you got to pay me. On top of that, when you think of it, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're paying top dollars to two of their wide receivers, $25 million for Smitty, and then it is $32 million for AJ. So that's $57 million. Cowboys are not spending that much money in the wide receiver department. Plus, they are paying top dollars to Dallas Goedert. So we got all of these people that's getting paid top dollars on the other teams, and we are stretching to even get our guys signed. So from the human element of it, he's like, hey, wait a minute, I deserve my money now.
Real quick, I gotta move you to something else, Michael, because I'm hoping one of these nuggets fall out your pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I think, another year, with Mozzie, I know Zim's looking forward to working with him. I just think Mozzie's going to step up and be a really good football player. But we also know that, Hankins was a good fit for us 2 years in a row. And, there's usually, big defensive tackles out there that you can pick up. I know the Eagles picked up a couple years ago. Late in the game, and just feel like there's going to be some opportunities there at that position as well. To add something, to add some depth and some competition for camp.
Highlighted that camp. So we leaning on you because everybody know that DT is very lean. So
yeah.
Yeah, I could probably make a phone call or two there and have something for you. I haven't done it. It's a great question. This probably should be on the top of my to-do list to give you a name. But I'm not prepared to do that tonight. But I can tell you that the way it's been explained to me, they feel good about options that are there. That as much as they wanted Jonathan Hankins, they feel like they can replace his production in free agency or decent veterans that are available. So they need to do something. Let's not make any
right.
Like, let's not get it twisted. Like the situation, even if Mozzie comes on strong, I mean Mozzie is a big time projection because obviously he had struggles last year. Some of it was mental, some of it was physical, technical. He had the shoulder injury that he said popped up at the Thanksgiving game. Had surgery on that early in the offseason, and So he just wasn't ever comfortable, and there were a whole host of variety of reasons as to why. And now hasn't practiced once since then because he's recovering from the labrum tear. And so for the Cowboys to know, and a new coaching staff to know what exactly they're getting, I don't think they possibly could. They may like the conversations, they may like the person and behind the helmet and everything, but in terms of like actually seeing what it looks like, it's a projection. And the most promising part of it is scheme, is that they feel that with what Mike Zimmer likes to do on his defensive line, the techniques and such, philosophies, that it's more, there's more parallels there to what Michigan asked of him, rather than what Dan Quinn did last year. So that, this scheme is a little more in tune with what Mozzie's done in the past. And so that is reason to think that he'll be more comfortable, he'll play faster, he'll be able to take on double teams perhaps more. But again, there's a lot to that too. I mean, where's the shoulder? Where is he physically? More importantly, with the weight and the strength and so forth. And training camp is huge. There probably isn't a more important camp of a player, at least on the defensive side of the ball. But he's the first one I can think of. Period. Is Mozzie Smith? How improved is he? Because as much as you talk about, and Mike McCarthy talks about, and coaches on the league talk about guys making the second-year jump, when you're making a second-year jump that starts with being on the surgery table in the offseason, you're not practicing all in the spring.
Right.
You're that jump is being inherently hamstrung.
Right.
So what height are you able to reach despite that? If Mozzie's able to have like this tremendous surge in development and be a true quality starter at your 0-1 type technique, then man, he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for overcoming, I think, a lot of odds and making that big of a jump in his game. But for that to be plan A, that's a projection. And he's, again, I'm not saying he's not capable of being that guy, but it's quite the leap to count on that. So you need more depth in that room. And I would expect that would be coming pretty soon.
So, yeah, because Law and I looked, right? We looked. So free agency currently is not looking as good, right?
Right.
But trades are looking like some potential value. I looked at some teams.
Right.
So Washington, they talked about in one of the press conferences that could be a trade partner. You didn't have any talks about Washington potentially being a trade partner? They kind of hinted to that.
I got nothing for you.
See,
I gotta do some research.
Because Michael, the last time you dropped some good stuff, you dropped Barr before it happened. You hinted at Peters before it happened. So now, but a lot of us really trying to get a clue on that DT. Did you have something, Law?
Well, there are some teams with surplus, like the Browns, the Jets. So we could be waiting for bodies to fall, and we scoop and get those guys. But I would prefer the Cowboys to just rip the Band-Aid off and just do a trade situation. I know we still got to pay Osa. I think Osa is going to have a hell of a year this season, and it's going to be a new. Will they be doing a different role with Osa this year, Michael? Will he be doing more two gaps, or he go straight to the quarter?
I think you still want him getting upfield. You still want him to be a pressure type player. That's who he is. I don't think you look at the way he's built. I mean, he's a powerful, explosive guy, and you want to take advantage of that athleticism, getting him upfield a bit. So I would think that would be, tapping into I think the mistake that coaching staffs can make is taking a player and making him fit your scheme rather than tweaking your scheme to fit your personnel. And so the Cowboys they're smart enough to not make Osa a zero, and it's going to take on doubles and all that.
Real quick,
Michael Gehlken, Dallas Morning News. How many reps and time on task goes into an option route between quarterback and receiver? And when you're making that change at quarterback, even if you're running your offense, how cognizant do you have to be of just that time on task that some of these guys don't have with Cooper?
A lot of great questions today, but this is my favorite because we get to talk a little ball here. But no, I've never been a big option route thrower. your concept in the past.
Technology. I can't get enough.
Yeah, it's a little weird hearing your voice. But to answer your question, option routes take a lot of time. And option, if you're in the traditional West Coast offense, it's. I tell you, we need to win this week because this is getting this
so
thing's
sad.
turning into a zoo in here. But but option routes. So. They take a lot of time, Michael. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you're going to run option routes, you need to live in that world. That's been my experience. You can't dab on it. Option routes are really not part of the old traditional West Coast offense. I've had quarterbacks in the past that didn't really like them.
The decision ahead on Amari, his usage, not just production, but in terms of how often he was targeted, even when he was on the field, it was down.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of his relative lack of involvement, especially for someone who's got the contract of a number one wide receiver?
I just think it's an offensive philosophy, and with when we had the skilled players that we had, between Kellen and Dak, I think there was a progression of where you threw the ball, and depending on how the defense played you, it would point the ball to certain places where, hey, if they're going to double over here and they're going to double over the top over here, then that's going to dictate that the ball goes here. So I think it's more of a system deal. It wasn't a thing where we just said, hey, we're not going to target Amari as much.
Is that the right system?
Based on the system, then
You was on the trail, Michael. You was on the trail. And it's safe to say that obviously Mike McCarthy was right. And you was sensing it. It seemed that you was at least sensing the divide between Michael and Kellen. So, not to get into the past, to talk about the future. Year 2 of Mike McCarthy's offense. What do you see? Because you was really on the trail like I've never seen any of the journalists. None of the journalists was focusing on the lack of targets to Amari like you. And none of them was focusing on the option routes and how that was causing some problems with the head coach like you. And it was just good questions. What do you see going into year 2 of Mike McCarthy's offense?
I think the most fascinating part is just the run game and what comes with that. You have obviously the personnel aspects of that equation that drum up a lot of interest, but I think schematically, how does this coaching staff more closely align and marry their run and pass game so that everything looks identical? I mean, you look at what the San Francisco 49ers do and do best. It is the fact that, the same presentation can be any number of concepts once the snap is made. And that confusion and, that eye discipline, you're holding linebackers a little bit longer. There's just keeping the defense more honest. And so I know it's something that the Cowboys have spent a lot of time on even last year, but, this year as well, or in this offseason, her discussion of just marrying the offense a bit. And so I think that is going to be real tests and measure of the Mike McCarthy offense taking that next step. And so the run game is a big part of what Mike McCarthy wants to have. And that is the scheme aspect of it. A lot of that rests there, obviously without being too simplistic. And then personnel-wise, I think it's fascinating. What do they have? 8 running backs on the 90-man roster right now.
Right.
That's a lot of guys. And you look at all 8 of those, they all have been either overlooked or dismissed or written off. They're too old. They're too small. None of them are. Zeke Elliott is the highest compensated of them. But you look at the other ones. I mean, these are all, league minimum type of guys, undrafted. There isn't a lot of, hype around any one of them. And so that's a fascinating room to be a part of, where you have 1 through 8 guys of, having, something to prove to the league, to themselves, to whatever. And there's a whole lot of opportunity for someone to do something. And of course, it won't just be one person. I think the Patriots did a really good job of keeping Ezekiel Elliott fresh at this stage of his career and kind of finding that balance, much the way that the Cowboys did that with Tyron Smith last year and how they managed him in practice. You look at the way that Ezekiel Elliott was used and snap count and touch count and all that. I think that's something that the Cowboys believe is the right way to go at this stage of his career. Rico Dowdle, I was someone who felt that the distribution of work between Tony Pollard and Rico Dowdle last year aligned more with what they were paid and aligned less with what their actual ability was. I think, did that make sense? Where, there's a huge gap in pay between. I think there's a huge gap in pay last year in terms of Tony Pollard, another franchise tag, and Rico Dowdle, just being.
Are you saying you were seeing more juice?
A low salary guy.
Were you saying you were seeing more juice?
Yeah, because, I think especially early in the season, the first half of the season. Yes, and I mean, you look at that catch that he had in the right flat against the Arizona Cardinals, where he makes like 5 guys miss.
Yes.
Yeah. To me, before that, Rico should have been getting more touches, but after that, he certainly should have been getting more touches. And if both those guys were being paid exactly the same, let's just say on pure ability.
Rico.
I think Rico's getting more touches than he certainly was, and so, but I think Tony Pollard was fantastic in pass protection. I think Rico was as well. I think Rico's really good in pass pro. So anyway, so here we are, and Rico could be a big part of this backfield too. But I think the Cowboys missed an opportunity to get him even more involved last year. And I don't know what those conversations are like in the building, but I don't know. That one kind of seemed a little suspect to me, just based on what those two guys where they were. I thought that should have. You look at how many touches and carries Tony Pollard saw out of the gate last year. I mean, he was leading the league there for a period of time in terms of his involvement, and I just thought that was I just didn't see that as being warranted when you had a healthy Rico Dowdle, which is something that the Cowboys have been waiting for a long time to see, a healthy Rico Dowdle, and that's what they did with it. And so now here you are this year, and Rico could be a part of things, but what do they have in him? I think he would have a better feel for that if they actually used him last year a little bit more. So that's him, and then Hunter Luepke. There's a lot of excitement about him. If you see a 53-man roster projection and it doesn't have Hunter Luepke on it, you might as well not go on to the next position group. He's definitely part of things, and they really have that belief in him. Obviously, we'll see what happens now and over the next 2 months, but I'm not going to.
Are you seeing Hunter as a weapon or lead blocker?
As a special teamer, so we saw him get him involved in short yardage situations last year. Yeah. They're gonna roll these backs through. And obviously last year when they were using Hunter, the goal line in Miami, which didn't go well, but different situations, his
conversion rate was real good.
Yeah, he was. He's a physical runner, hard-nosed, decisive, and he's carried a lot of football in his college career, and so he's someone that the Cowboys have trusted, and I think he's going into another year. That trust will only grow, but you leaned on him when you didn't have an Ezekiel Elliott, and so now that you do have Zeke, how does that affect Luepke's opportunities? I don't know, but I knew they really like him, and he'll be a part of things. And then that fourth back, we'll see how it all plays out, but they really like Deuce Vaughn, and we're with a new kickoff rule where they can have 2 returners back there. That opens the door up for him to be active on special teams, because he isn't like last year. He was not enough of a just his size and so forth. Like he just wasn't really someone who worked on special teams or could work on special teams over some of the other ones that would make the 48-man game day roster in his favor. So this year he's got a wider window there. They worked him in the slot in the spring, and had him sit in wide receiver meetings and go through wide receiver drills. And instead of running back, working with the running backs, he literally had practice be working with the wide receivers. So they're giving him every opportunity to make this team, and we'll see how that goes. But he's got a little more juice than I think the Cowboys really tapped into during the season last year. Again, some of that is just special teams, but it's also something they want to work on a bit more this year in year 2 for him. So, and then things are wide open. Royce Freeman, you kind of go down the list of all 8. We're not going to go through all, but they it's a fascinating position group from a personnel standpoint. So, you asked me about 3 hours ago about Mike McCarthy's year 2 of the offense.
No, I'm happy you went on that. Go ahead.
But yeah, the run game is I think a really intriguing part of this roster.
Yeah. So yeah. So I was going to say that when you dissect all of those things and you look at it, I was looking back at this flow of the offense, and we scored by far the least in the third quarter. I think that I counted. We scored 1 touchdown week 1 in the third quarter, and then the next time we scored a touchdown wasn't until week 10. And collectively, if you don't count the Washington game at the end, we scored about 3 touchdowns for the full season. Anywhere we can help out on that third quarter touchdown or scoring or moving of the ball. Do you have any input on that? Will Steve Simcoe be able to help this out, Michael?
That's a good stat. I didn't know it. I don't know what to make of that. I think sometimes we make too much of halftime adjustments. That's typically what people within the league say, because adjustments are happening, between every series, and there's constant discussion between players on the side and coaches on the sideline, and it's so. Yeah, I don't know if I have a great answer as to how the Cowboys can find more production from that standpoint in the third quarter. Coming out of the half, I think it's interesting. I probably want to take a look too. I mean, how many of those times where they, first play of the fourth quarter, does a 7-minute drive conclude and then they score? And so how what exactly is the drive production? Like, I think I want to look a little more closely at the numbers before assessing kind of where the issue may or may not lie.
Most certainly.
Well, I'll tell you this before Lau answer that question. I'm excited to hear that your intuition is leaning towards run game. Mm-hmm. And I think the draft can give us clues that you likely sniffing in the right direction again, right? When you see BB, and you obviously a Tyler guy, and most people kind of suspected a tackle in the first. But then with BB and then with Nathan late in the 6th, it looked like they really went heavy towards building some mass up front. Now, and the trend seems to be, Michael, that your more successful teams are running the ball. Detroit was in the playoffs running the ball, especially Green Bay late running the ball. San Francisco obviously running the ball. Could Dallas be trying to get ahead instead of kind of chasing?
Yeah, they want to be more physical on both sides of the ball. That was the one takeaway they had coming from the season, is that they were not assertive enough up front offensively in the run game, and then defensively against the run, they were abysmal, especially late in the year. And so that is something that is not lost on them at all. And I think offensively, while we knew not to expect, or I reported that immediately after the season, the Cowboys were not going to spend big at running back, but they needed to shore up the run game still in some way. And so we didn't see that in terms of drafting a running back. They hoped to draft a running back, but there also wasn't this, in their view, deep, talented group this year. The 2023 draft was stronger at running back than the 24 class. And that's an opinion that was really shared throughout the league based on my conversations. So rather than force the issue and draft a running back after they missed out on a big run, they just kind of kept their head down and attacked the draft and where they felt the value was. So, they feel like they did some things offensive line and so forth to like get the run game in the right direction and scheme wise, and they bring back Zeke, and so they feel like they've made some positive changes to that area. But defensively, what have they done besides actually have actual linebackers on their roster, and Eric Kendricks being a big part of that? Not a whole lot. They lose Hankins, they lose DA Dorrance Armstrong. They're asking a lot of Mozzie Smith, as we've discussed, in a pretty, trialing offseason for him to make a huge leap. So those two areas, proven in the run game offensively and then defensively, coming a little stronger in that area, I think ultimately will define much of this 2024 Cowboys season.
I sure hope you're right. And then I like what Big Tom said. He said we got to have a physical play caller. That's the thing that I am concerned about. Can Mike McCarthy kind of keep his foot off the gas? Because he like to get on the gas and throw the ball. He does.
Yeah,
He's a throwing play caller. Can he make that switch? I hope so. Because it does seem like we're built to do that. I want to ask you another question real quick about a guy that you was very high on and you really beat the ground on, Terrence Steele. With him being almost close to a year and a half off his gruesome injury, what do you think and what do you suspect his impact is going to be coming back from that? Because you was one of the people that really saw Steele early. Like, because you was highlighting from your film breakdown, I saw your film breakdown on Twitter, how he's usually first off the ball. And most people didn't catch that. I saw that too, to where he's usually first off the ball and he killed in the run game. So what's your gut feeling of Steele and how he's going to help, hopefully, your prediction on the run game?
Yeah, he prized himself on that. I think it was pretty incredible. Maybe as and there was obviously a lot of individual, standout performances last year on the Cowboys roster. They had several Pro Bowlers. Look at Deron Bland did in terms of setting the NFL record for most pick sixes in a season. Probably starts there in terms of most impressive individual feat from a player last year. You had Dak Prescott be number 2 in MVP voting. CeeDee Lamb, breaking Michael Irvin records, franchise records, plural, with receptions, receiving yards, and everything that he did. But in a normal year where all that wasn't going on, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more impressive individual feat than Terrence Steele coming off ACL, MCL, MPFL tears in December of the previous year. Not only returning and being ready for training camp, but playing every single offensive snap all season until they had a big league in Week 18 against, I believe, the Commanders, and then they decided to rest him for the postseason. But every single snap, he was the only one to do that. And for it to have been him to have done that, coming off of that injury, tells you everything that you need to know about the way that he works and grinds and just the way that he is wired. And that's who Terrence Steele is. And so I know that the Cowboys gave him the big contract, and while coming off of that injury, and he did not have his best season, he would tell you that. But the way that he worked through that shows you why you pay a guy like that. Because if I was a general manager, which I never will be, but if I was a general manager, and I'm gonna miss on a lot of guys. I'm gonna hit on some, but I'm gonna miss on a lot. Let me miss on a guy who works like Terrence Steele and is wired like Terrence Steele and is tough like Terrence Steele and sets the tone in the run game like Terrence Steele. Like when Zach Martin tells you that our run game starts with Terrence Steele, pay the man.
Pay the man.
And they did. And they did. And so you have Zach Martin, who is always locked in, but there's something about him this year where he is, he's the most consistent person I've ever met in my life.
Right.
Whoa! But
it's going to be breaking news. Breaking news.
Oh, I've written about his consistency. I don't think it was a break.
No. I'm talking about for 2025. Zach Martin.
Yeah, we'll see there. Well, he's got a decision to make, but yeah, if this is his last year, let's just say he's not leaving anything in the chamber or in the tank. He's okay. He wants to be proud of this season, no matter what. If this is last or second last, third to last, but if it is his last, like he's giving it all. And so I think if you have Zach Martin being Zach Martin, because last year wasn't to his standard, he feels. And coming off of the holdout, he feels like it threw him off. And then he's the ultimate creature habit. And then you have Terrence Steele, who's now a year off of that injury, like getting those two guys at the same time back, even though they were both on the field last year, but getting them truly back, that is critical to the Cowboys' run game and offense. And so that's one of the keys to this thing that no one, again, is really talking about. But if that all plays out the way it looks like it could play out, then that would be a major upgrade to the Dallas offensive line.
So let me ask you this on that offensive line. I don't know how much you guys touched on this, but Brock Hoffman, TJ Bass, Cooper Beebe, who's going to be that center? And it's a double question. Who's really taking those reps after Zach Martin? Is it TJ Bass, or do you foresee that that's Cooper Beebe's spot?
You talking about at right guard two?
Right guard two. Yeah. And who's center, Bass. Of course. Center. Okay, so TJ Bass is owning that. Yeah.
So Brock Hoffman, frankly, is one of my favorite guys in the locker room. I love talking to him. Like, I love the way he's wired. I see the way that others respect him. Like, he's a leader. He's just a no-nonsense type of thing. I did this series last year, and not many people read it, but I did this series last year. It was called Unheralded, and I focused on, after every game, win or lose, I focused on one offensive, defensive, and special teams performance that maybe wasn't noticed on game day, wasn't highlighted by the commentators, wasn't really remembered or written about previously, in the immediate following of the game. But from talking to coaches, it excited them in terms of like, clinic. This is clinic tape. This is what a guy, doing his job looks like, and doing his 111th on a play that made the difference, and really kind of taking, with film attached, kind of taking people into the game in a new, deeper way. I really try to do non-casual content for non-casual fans, and so that Unheralded series was all about that. And for one game, I couldn't tell you like which game it was, but Brock Hoffman didn't have much of a role last year in terms of like reps. He started multiple games, but like overall, like he was more a depth guy who wasn't called upon, super often. And there was this one game, again, I don't remember the opponent, but he was on field goal protection. So, the opposite of a glamorous responsibility. And he, just based on like a feel for a guy and his movements, and I don't know, he could just tell. He said like he could just tell like he could get under his skin over the course of the game. And so like the first, I was a PAT or a field goal. I think it was like a PAT. He like chips him a little bit after the play, and then the guy doesn't like it, and he kind of jaws at him. And then next PAT, Brock chips him after the play again, and the guy doesn't like it. And again, it's just like you feel it escalating gradually. And then the third or fourth time it happened, this guy in field goal block for the other team had enough and like pops Brock. Brock hilariously like flops to the ground and draws a 15-yard penalty, and just thought it was hilarious.
That's smart.
And so like just someone who just like
in the game,
in the game, just tough, just kind of like he's kind of having fun, but he just freaking loves it. Like he just loves it in a way that like guys need to love it. So that's Brock Hoffman. So I know he trained with Duke Manyweather, and he made some strides, and he's got a lot of opportunity because of how smart he is and how tough he is and respected he is. So no one should sleep on Brock Hoffman. That being said, no one should ever sleep on a third-round draft pick who is drafted at a position that just lost a starter. And so if you were to ask me, which you did, who would be the guy most likely, I think Cooper Beebe is going to get every opportunity to take that job, but he's going to have to not just earn that job, but he's going to have to take that job from Brock Hoffman, and he's not going to go without a fight. We know that about him.
Hey, boss, it's 2-1 now. It's 2-1. Him and Brock are saying the same thing.
Right, that's why I'm clapping it up.
Yeah.
But also shout out to Hoffman.
Yeah. Shout out to him.
Shout out to Hoffman. Like, from my research, Michael, I've been seeing the rookies say his name a lot. BB included.
Yeah.
BB included. It shows a good coach in the locker room. It shows a good coach in offensive line.
Yeah, offensive line is one of the best position rooms. probably throughout the league, like locker room to locker room. Like there's something about the offensive linemen, like because obviously there are 5 that are working as one, and they're always joking and they're grinding through injuries, and just there's kind of a atmosphere in that room. But when you have Zach Martin in there, and he's kind of set the tone now, obviously Tyron Smith not in there, but even still, Zach being vocal and just who he is. I think it's just he's been instrumental to that culture, and so that's why it's who knows again if it's Zach Martin's final year, but if it is, heck of a time to draft 3 offensive linemen, isn't it? Just to get as many guys in there to kind of get a feel for what that room's about and take a look at. I don't care what position you're in. If you're a left tackle like Tyler Guyton, if you're a center, what guard, you can look at number 70, get a feel for what it takes to be great, and the consistency, the professionalism, and everything that Zach Martin embodies. So, and then you've got now Tyler Smith, who suddenly is somehow in year 3. Talk about time flying in this league, and so you have someone who learned from Tyron Smith, but someone who really learned early on when Tyron was unavailable because of the hamstring knee tear. He had Jason Peters, and Jason Peters was just a running faucet of information and just so valuable to Tyler Smith. And so now it's really cool that you have year 3 Tyler Smith playing next to a Tyler Guyton, 22-year-old, who's going to be, his battery mate for potentially a very, very long time. And Tyler Smith is saying the exact things to Tyler Guyton that Jason Peters 2 years ago had said to him. And so that's like just to see that that magic kind of happen in the offensive line room. It's a really, really healthy place in the Cowboys locker room.
Let me ask you this though, Michael Gehlken. Then, I'm not being messy though, but I'm going to ask you: is it true competition on that left tackle side between Chuma Edoga, Awesome Richards, as well as Tyler Guyton, or are they gonna just say, "Hey, we drafted you in the first round. We're gonna rip the Band-Aid off and put you in there"? Tyler Guyton.
Oh, I think Tyler Guyton is your week 1 starter.
Week 1.
Yeah.
He's already better than Edoga, Awesome, all of those boys. Awesome playing left tackle anyway.
They're different. I mean, I think there's certain aspects of technique, no doubt, that Chuma Edoga is more advanced than Tyler Guyton. Keeping in mind that Tyler Guyton, he played 1 year of high school football, not until his senior year at Maynard Senior High, and just outside of Austin, and then played left tackle for the first time at TCU, left on the left side, and then gets to Oklahoma, and then really plays on the right side in terms of playing time. But he's very new to this, but he's athleticism. I mean, he's got elite feet, as Zach Martin told me. When Zach Martin tells me that some guy he sees as a young player is elite physically, so you're going to have to develop him, and the best way to develop him is to give him reps. And I think that is what the Cowboys signaled they're prepared to do when you draft someone in the first round. So, it would be very irregular for a first round draft pick not to start right away. And so I think you'll see very early in Oxnard that although Chuma Edoga was working with the ones in the spring, that's kind of the way it goes in the spring, is that they're going to give the reps to the veterans and develop the rookies on the other side of the field, or with the twos and have them watch. But it's going to be Tyler's time here very shortly. And yes, I would look for him and Myles Garrett to have a good dance on week 1.
Week 1. Oh my goodness.
Hey, I got to be a little messy myself. I want to talk some more football with you. How we good on time? Or
yeah, I think baby's still asleep. I got to write this Tyler Guyton article, but I got
okay. I'll be quick. We gonna get these nexus out the way. But with all the professionals that we've been talking to the last 3-4 weeks, everybody wants to know about this competition between Trey Lance and Dak Prescott. Like what you've been seeing out there.
But him and Dak or him and Cooper Rush?
I want to say Dak, and I'm gonna say why. Because I heard Bobby Belt say that if Trey Lance, and I know where you're going with that, that he said if Trey Lance was trying to get paid, he wouldn't be worth $20 million. So with everybody assuming Dak is around $60 million, to me that was saying he's a third of Dak. I wanted to compare them 2, and then we can go Cooper Rush.
So you want me to
compare
compare
Trey Lance right now to Dak Prescott, because nobody's doing that. I'm not hearing nobody kind of put them side by side and measuring them two. And a lot of fans want to know, because there are some people that believe Trey Lance is going to take his job. It's some people that believe it's not going to happen. I'm trying to see how close is this competition based on what you've been seeing out there. And,
there's no competition right now. Dak Prescott is the starting quarterback for the Cowboys, and Trey Lance is competing to be the number 2.
Gotcha.
And that's what it is. In terms of his market value, I mean, if his market value was that high, he wouldn't have just been, traded for a 4th round draft pick.
Right.
So the Cowboys have worked very hard, and Trey Lance has worked very hard to correct some things from a footwork standpoint and other aspects of just his throwing mechanics. And he's made, by many accounts, really meaningful progress in that area. Because the one thing that Trey Lance is, and you could ask the 49ers, you could ask the Cowboys, you could ask, he's a worker.
Right.
And so you give someone like that enough time, he's going to improve. It's science, I think. I don't know if it's science, but it's logic, whatever you want to do.
We'll go with it.
Yeah. And so
perfect.
Trey Lance, like, he and I had a conversation about this in May or June before the spring program let up, and he's just been working, and he's been waiting for his opportunity to show those steps he's made. And the preseason is all about Trey Lance. Obviously, there's 89 other players on the roster, but when you consider the starters are going to be sitting, Dak Prescott is going to play a preseason down, and he's going to have the vast majority of reps behind center. That's the plan for Trey Lance, and it's an opportunity for him to show that those strides again that he's made in practice field can translate to game speed, even if it is preseason game speed. That's what the Cowboys want to see. They are very interested and intrigued and really want to evaluate Trey Lance against live competition, and they're going to get their opportunity in August, and they're going to seize it for all they can. And so we'll see, but that has nothing to do with Dak Prescott this year. And we've got 3 quarterbacks who are projected to make this 53-man roster right now. We'll see if they keep all 3. But right now, certainly none of them are under contract for the 2025 season. So it's really intriguing. So the door is wide open for what next year looks like. We're talking about this year, Dak and Trey. No, they're a galaxy apart. So they're on a completely different program. So
Galaxy
Dak's
apart.
Getting ready for a week. In terms of like,
that would be a nice title.
In terms of what we're talking about, like Dak's the guy getting first. There's no rotation of reps at first team quarterback. There's no controversy here. There's no debate. There's no this. Like, no, Dak's getting ready for week 1, and Trey Lance is getting ready to ball out in the preseason and show that he's made real strides and deserves to be the first quarterback off the bench, not just be the emergency third who's in uniform but holding a clipboard and wearing a headset throughout the season. So, and hey, if Trey Lance, it looks amazing, and he's the number 2, then we'll see what they do with Cooper Rush, because they've got to make 53 in the numbers game work, and so we'll see about all that. But this Trey Lance is a great opportunity to be evaluated and demonstrate progress that he's made, but that has nothing to do with who's QB1 against the Browns.
Hey, Michael, the quarterback rule with the emergency quarterback, that did roll over to this year as well, right?
Yes, my understanding.
To carry 2, and then you have 1 at the emergency. So I think that they still will probably carry these 3. I think that Cooper Rush is still going to look poised in practice. He's getting $2.8 million. That's a lot of money for a backup or a third string quarterback. And I'm looking at Trey, he's getting 5.3 or 4. That's a lot of money for a backup. So, it's going to be it's going to be really someone. It's going to be nice to see this training camp, though.
Real quick,
definitely interesting.
Real quick, I got one more, and I can give my final words, unless you got something like. We've been hearing rumors about Trey not being ready. Are you hearing anything about that?
That was the sense in the spring, is that he would miss the start of training camp. That there was major concern about it, but you look at his timeline relative to, the 3 rookies who also tore their left ACL in mid-August, in a 5-day span. Those being DeMarvin Overshown, John Stevens, and wide receiver Dave Durden. So you have those 3 guys. They're ready to go. But for Trey, he's a little. Trey was a little bit behind relative to them by nature of his situation being different, timing wise and the sort. So he's not far off. I think he'll be ready week 1, at least that I've heard. I haven't heard anything to thus far indicate otherwise. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him start training camp on PUP.
That should help Gilmore.
You gotta pay him, and then there's the financial aspects of everything we talked about at the start of the show. But
we gotta go develop our guys.
It looks better with Gilmore here than it doesn't. But you've also got Trayvon and his resume, and you got Deron Bland and his resume, and if you're Gilmore, you'd love to be back.
And Nashawn, I heard he was looking pretty good at me.
And they took a shot in the dark with Garyon Conley, right?
Yeah.
It's a shot in the dark, so he
Eric
could be.
Scott, so
I like Eric.
There's some familiarity. Yeah, so we'll see. And they drafted some. So they've got some bodies there. I would be surprised. I would be surprised if Gilmore's back, just because of the financial aspects of it all, and just how much talent that they've kind of positioned themselves to evaluate over the course of the summer. And the fact that move hasn't happened yet. I know Gilmore's coming off of his shoulder surgery, but I would think that pretty soon here he'd make a move. And there's teams that have a much greater dearth at corner than the Cowboys currently do.
Yeah. So real quick before I give my final words, y'all make sure y'all follow Mr. Michael Gehlken on Twitter, but also pay for the Dallas Morning News. Listen. I put my whole cosign behind Michael Gehlken. That's saying a lot because I don't drink Kool-Aid without first measuring. Matter of fact, let me hear my drop. I got to hear my drop on that. It's a big thing for Boss Cowboy to actually say publicly that he drunk Kool-Aid. Listen, I do not drink Kool-Aid without first measuring. I don't. I really do have favorites, and Michael Gehlken is definitely one of them. Absolutely. I appreciate your boldness, your professionalism. You really getting down to the real problems and asking the tough questions. I really appreciate that. And then also doing the real work, like you said, a 2,000 word breakdown of kicking the can and the real cost of the decisions that was made. So I greatly appreciate you, Michael. I do. I really do.
Great.
I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we finna give our final words, and lastly, I'm gonna say since I met you that day, and I know you was like, who is this guy? But we sat down and we really talked. It just never changed. That's all I'm gonna say. Is we need people like you in the building, because I really believe people like you help the Cowboys.
Yeah.
People that ask the real questions, huh?
You've always been very nice to me. You give me all kinds of compliments, and I never know how to respond, but I appreciate you. It means a lot.
No,
it means
I
a lot.
watch your work. Like anybody that been watching this channel for a while, they already know. It was your questions on the option routes. It was your question with Kelly's that really opened up the floodgates of what was really going on. So I thank you. So let me give my final words. And we all give our final words, so you could be up next, Michael. So I really appreciate Michael Gehlken. This is one of my favorite guys, hands down. I would definitely say him and Jane Slater. Jane Slater is also coming. We scheduling her. We also have John Machota. He's coming on the 18th. But I can easily say, with all the journalists that we have and we keep having as guests, Michael Gehlken is my favorite, like for real, easily, So I really mean everybody follow him, pay attention. I don't see the clickbait. I don't. I don't see it. I see somebody that just want to get the story, just old school. And I think people like him is what's going to kind of keep all of us well informed. That's my final word, and I just appreciate you, and I look forward to us doing this next year. It's starting to become a habit to where every year we're at least doing one show where we can catch everybody up on Cowboy Nation going into camp. But I will say, next time before you come on the show, I need you to make some phone calls.
Noted.
Yeah.
Sorry. 4th of July weekend. Whole hangover thing. Next time I'll be on.
Yeah, we'll give you a pass because your young daughter. What's your final words, Michael?
I think probably something that's top of mind for me is I think as a writer, I'll talk about a story I'm writing right now. That like, I think I don't know how good of a writer I am, but I'm a really aggressive wrestler of words where I really try to get it all right. And so this story I'm working on right now on Tyler Guyton, I'm really trying to get it right. I'm making all kinds of calls and working late. I think I might do an all-nighter tonight. Try to get this done soon. And so I really am trying to capture Tyler Guyton. And if I do my job right, I think people are going to see him in a totally different light. And he is unique, just to kind of give you a sense of where I'm going with it. He's unique because I do a story on a first-round draft pick just about every year in my career. There's some exceptions along the way. Garyon Conley actually is an exception when I was covering the Raiders. But he, so I went to Austin, and I've spoken with his, former coaches, his uncle, his brother, his best friend. I've spoken with his mom, his dad, and damn near everybody but his priest. And it's unique that I'm doing this, and I'm finding myself writing less about the player, or as much as usual about the player, but I'm writing more about the person and the character. And he is, again, done this a long time, pretty unique how he is wired and how selfless he is, and the sort of things that he does for people that others would simply walk past. He's got the potential to leave, as I've said in my introduction, a pretty dynamic legacy if he fulfills his potential on the field, and he's got the resources to continue what he does off the field. He's a really, really interesting player in person who, again, just has a very, very high ceiling as it pertains to impact and all that comes with it. So looking forward to, one, me being done with this article, but two, people reading it, and hopefully, again, if I do my job, having a feel for what it is that I'm trying to capture here. Final word. That was my first final word. I don't know.
That's an exciting one.
No.
Real quick, I gotta address a couple of super chats. I see that y'all dropped some super chats for the Oxnard Fund. I'm not going to Oxnard this year. That's gonna be Loud Nation. We're gonna be doing joint shows though. So everybody that's dropping the money in the Oxnard, I might need to refund y'all. Let me know if y'all need me to refund y'all, because I'm not going, because y'all dropping some good dollars. But support Law for sure, because he's going. It's expensive. He does that out of his own pocket. So, obviously support me too. But
support him. You gonna be down when we go to Frisco and start Frisco.
Yeah, I'll be at that training camp.
Yeah, it's your hot dogs and French fries. But I would say this though with Michael Gehlken. I'm gonna say this, man. You're not doing a good job at all, man. You're not, man. You're doing a great job, and I love your work, man. And you're a pillar of the community. Everybody look forward to your articles and the things that you write and tweet out, and just continue to do what you're doing, man. You are fantastic at everything that you do, especially your work. It's no shortcuts to it. Ain't this right, boss?
None
whatsoever. So I'm quite sure that this Tyler Guyton article is finna go crazy good, man. Especially when we look at everything far as the blind side of Dak Prescott and the most important spot that he can play in this spot by us knowing that he was a fan of Dak Prescott before he was drafted here means a lot to him. And I can't wait to see him out there, the athleticism and the things that we should be able to do now on the run. We was talking to Clarence Hill last week, right, boss?
Yeah.
And he was bringing up the fact that, Tyron Smith was good, but he was horrible on the run blocks, right? So I'm not taking a jab at Tyron Smith, but I just hope that Tyler Guyton can be better at run blocking, and I hope that can be a situation that we can see, especially with Royce Freeman now, and Zeke, and of course Rico. So with those three guys, we got hammers and nails, and hopefully this team can just propel itself into higher heights. I would say that. I'm gonna ask you this though, Michael. David Bakhtiari. Is there any room in the tank? Oh, it's done. Don't bring it just in case. Last break. That's an emergency.
Yes,
can't kick back.
I'm not commenting on what he has not in the tank. I'm sure he's got more. God bless him. Have a great next season, but no, he's not going to be Dallas Cowboy. I can't imagine. No.
You can't imagine. I was just throwing it out there just in case Guyton don't work out. Awesome and Chuma Edoga. Can we bring in somebody who's familiar with Mike McCarthy, etc., who's long in the tooth, but knows these NFL streets? That's all I was just bringing him up.
It would probably. I would say injuries can make teams do things, but I think to project a Bakhtiari move is to project an injury. So I'm not going to do that.
Okay, good. That's a good one, right? That's a good one. Hey, man, that's my final word right there, boss. I don't got nothing else.
So if you go stay up all night, when you think you go drop the article, so we can.
I would probably say late next week. So probably the Thursday or Friday before camp starts. And I think it's probably worth saying. Do I get a final word? You mentioned Tyron Smith in the run game.
Yeah.
Like, I hope that we all have a very realistic view of player development. And Tyler Guyton is only a few years into this thing. And if you look at his film from his final year at Oklahoma, you look at his Florida State film, you can really see what he did against Jared Verse. You can see the appeal, you see the potential. But you also see, like, he's a great clay to mold, but he's also going to take some time to mold. And so how quickly it all comes together, I think if we're all just going to be going to Oxnard and taking film, videos of Micah Parsons versus Tyler Guyton and posting this stuff on social media and encouraging comments about how the guy's a bust and like, look, it's not always going to be pretty. Player development isn't always going to be pretty, especially when you're going against an all-world guy like Micah Parsons. But like, he's going to have his rough moments down in Oxnard, and it's not going to be a first-round pick struggling. It's going to be a first-round pick learning, and that's what that looks like. You're going to get beat, and Micah Parsons made Tyron Smith at times look bad. He's made Terrence Steele at times look bad. He's sure as hell going to make Tyler Guyton at times look bad because that's who he is. And so I think, and also like the run game, you mentioned Tyron Smith not being, elite there. That's probably the one part of Tyler's game that he's got to grow the most in order to reach his potential. He's talked about that. Like he wants to be like Penny Sewell and have that sort of a career. And it is, post-draft pick press conference that Friday afternoon when he was in the building for the first time, he said, I want to improve in the run game. And so it's not all going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time, but playing next to Tyler Smith got to help. And being part of that offensive line room and a coach such as Mike Solari that just focuses technique, it's going to help. And working with Duke Manyweather whenever he can, like he has, it's going to help. And so we'll see how quickly it all comes together. But I think that's the one thing about Tyler Guyton. And it would go for any other first-round pick left tackle that they took. So it's not anything specific to him. But, there's going to be reps where he's going to get the best of himself. Someone's going to get the best of him, and it's going to happen. And so I would hope that we all understand that that's player development, and it's practices, and it's padded practices, and it's happening, in front of reporters and fans. But let's not lose sight of Yeah.
And the clickbait
it's better to happen in a intra squad practice or a joint practice or it's somewhere in Oxnard. It's better to happen there than happen week 1 against Myles Garrett. So if you got to get your ass kicked a few times on the practice field by Micah Parsons, so you don't make that mistake in week 1, then that's what it's all about. Like people are getting better. So I kind of see that coming. I can see that coming a mile away. He's going to have these ugly looking moments, and people are going to react a certain way. Like it's training camp for a rookie who's super athletic and has a really high potential, but is new to the position. So give him time to figure things out.
All right, and that's why he is the man. So y'all look out for his Tyler Guyton article. Also hit that like button before y'all exit. We have Nick. We closing out with Nick Harris, and we have John Machota. Then it's gonna be the start of training camp. Thank you again, and that's the final word.
Good show, fellas.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
I just wanna run it up. Can we check something? Other than in the field, let up. I've been really in the field, let her rush, I let her feel.
Law, can you say that one more time?
Oh, I was gonna say that Kevin Myers, he sent a super chat in on the way out, so appreciate him for the Oxnard fund.
Nah, we appreciate everybody, man, with the Oxnard.
Appreciate all of y'all. Yeah.
And I really want y'all to support Michael Gehlken, man. Real talk.
Yeah.
Like, and listen, if I endorse somebody like that, y'all know I don't drink Kool-Aid without first measuring. I've been watching him for years. Super integrity in this space, y'all. And it's not easy to kind of just tell it like it is, like he does.
Yeah.
So, and it's pretty amazing. So I just want to kind of, support good people.
No doubt.
And he comes every year. Never hard, never bougie, never uppity. And he usually drop exclusive stuff. He almost dropped some stuff today. So
yeah. So he said, but David Bakhtiari? No.
No. You tried, though, Lord.
I tried, man. Got me.
I just wanna run it